question that I had is, what experience will you have with eBPF for distributed tracing as well?
Interesting. Those are the
dynamic
slides I
tracing?
kicked out. I had way too many slides when I had my first version. dtrace is internally built on top of eBPF. So you don't have to go through the low level of, for those who, eBPF is extended Berkeley packet filter. It's sort of a long-standing tracing mechanism in the Linux kernel. But writing eBPF code is really hard, and we generate eBPF code. So this uplifts the level of abstraction. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm not very familiar with tracing tools. I'm sorry if you already answered this. How dynamic is it? Can I start a new probe based on the whatever I'm seeing in the...
No, you can't. No, you can't. You can't. The dynamic thing is that what we do is we generate the probes on the fly. So there's like a trampoline function where you'll jump to that will actually collect the information. But no, you can't change course along the way. No, you can't.
Okay, then I guess the question is, what's the overhead? Because that would mean I would gather more things that I need, and then I'll figure out the correlations afterwards.
Yeah, you can kill your system. If you ask for everything to be monitored at the same time, yes, your system will become irresponsive. So you have to do it with a little bit of consideration. But that's why I was showing those wildcards in the beginning. If I would say, well, show me everything you're doing, that would not be a good idea. Yeah. So, but a probe in itself is not that expensive. But of course, when you have like 1 million, yeah. Right. No, this is fully multi-threaded. It was one of the things I couldn't show. So there's a lot of support for multi-threading. The trainings that I recorded, 2 out of the 4 are about multi-threading. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Shane here.
Stupid question. Who's this for? Because we never give any of our users sudo rights because they would totally mess our system up.
Then you can use it.
So it's just for us as administrators.
Yeah, this is the thing. But by virtue of what you're doing, you're going into the kernel, you need to have the privileges. That's just the way things work. And yeah, I know, you're not going to just hand out sudo to just everybody. But that's the way it works. Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah.
So this question is sort of inspired by a conversation we're having at the break, which is, how do I know that Codex is obeying the permissions that I have given it, just because it tells me that it does, right? So while you're going through this, I'm thinking, oh, okay, so I could actually detect if it is doing that.
Yeah.
Can I have some side effects, such as crash the program if it's accessing something outside what I've given permission for?
No, you can't. You can, like that was the question, you can make your system irresponsive if you overdo it. But basically, dtrace is a recording engine. When you think about it, you absorb the information, you read it in, and you dump out whatever you want to share with the outside world. So you can't change things. Well, I shouldn't say that. You could potentially change things, but we don't advertise that. And I'm not a big fan of that feature.
I'll take that as a yes.
But by and large, you're just reading. You're reading and you're passing on the information. Yeah. But it's really great. Like Apple has dtrace. Everybody with the Mac here has dtrace. But Apple wouldn't be Apple if they hadn't changed it. And they don't allow you to trace everything. Because, for example, in the old days, iTunes could not be traced because the digital right management, they didn't want to see you what they're doing. Because you can get very, very deep into a system if you want to. Yeah.
Ben.
So you started the talk by saying that this is going to allow you to see what's going on in the system, to understand. And this was a very simplistic kind of get your feet wet, for example.
Yeah.
Do you have like an example? And you don't have to go into the details of how you got there, but where you found a system was doing something that wasn't expected, and this helped you achieve and tell them, hey, you need to do something differently.
Yes, yeah, I clearly need to pay Nicholas more to get longer slots. Yeah, like one thing that I did, I was looking at multi-threading. I'm a parallel processing guy, and I was wondering, like, why as I use more threads, I see more variation in my times. And everybody said, yeah, that's just fact of life. And I said, well, why is that a fact of life? And I used dtrace to go into the scheduler, because you can do that. You can go into the scheduler and you can see what it's doing. And what I was seeing was that it was a time slice issue. When your runtimes get very short, the sensitivity to the time slice starts to play a role. And if you have like 1,000 threads and one misses its time slot, all 999 are waiting for that slow one to arrive. That was causing the variations. So yes, that would be like one of the sort of success stories, but a lot of people use it. I used to work for Oracle. Oracle is using it internally for some tools. Apple is using it. When you ask, Apple has a feature on their process, like top equivalent, to analyze an application. They're using dtrace for that. Yeah. Microsoft has a dtrace as well, by the way, but I'm not familiar with that one. I'm just frustrated by what Apple gives us, but they are using dtrace. Yeah.
So, Jason?
Just quick. What I saw you pulling for the data in your example was stuff that's available in the stack. That's how eBPF is pulling its data.
Sorry, you mentioned eBPF?
I'm not familiar with eBPF. What I saw was you're pulling stuff that's provided to that function. It must have been from the stack.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, one of the things is, you mentioned stack. One of the things I didn't even talk about, in an aggregation, you can use a stack trace as an index. So you can collect all the things with the same stack trace, for example.
So, please join me saying thank you again.
Thank you. Thanks.